welcome to this week's episode of TRUUU Podcast. I'm your host, Alex.
And I'm your host, Drea.
And this week we're going to do, I think, a pretty fun one. So we're going to be doing some Marvel movie rankings out of like all the different phases of Marvel movies thus far. So I anticipate that this will be a pretty good one and probably a pretty like, how should I put this? There'll be some hot takes in here, I'm sure.
Yeah, hot takes for sure, especially on my end, because I know that a crowd pleaser is not one of my favorite characters. So,
you know, it's so interesting that you say that because I feel like I have some pretty hot takes in here as well, especially when we get into phase 3 in Marvel. I feel like there's some hot takes, so that should be pretty fun. But first, as always, we're going to start out with our week update. So, Drea, how's your week been?
Well, as we weren't able to get a podcast out last week, it's been kind of like a 2-week stint since we have gone over this. And in those 2 weeks, I've been busy. I've had a lot going on. We had some tragedy. Well, I personally didn't have tragedy, but there was tragedy around me with my sister's friend passing away. So that was really challenging to kind of be like a bystander to that. Because even though, you know, like even though it's not necessarily affecting me and not necessarily like a person that I felt close to, it's like knowing all the people that it is affecting and like being close to them has been really taxing on me. And yeah, so that's been really challenging. But other than that, my sister moved into her new house, which is really exciting. And I got to go over there a few times and see like, you know, all of her stuff, well, not moved in, but like all of her like boxes and everything in her house. So very excited for her. She has 2 wine coolers in her kitchen, which like is a point in her house that I am very envious of. So that's very, very neat. Getting to see all that transpire. Other than that, just kind of like wrapping up the loose ends at work. The 15th of this month, which is next week, is my last day officially, like working for the district. And it's wild because I don't know, like when I took this job, I really didn't take it with the intent to become a teacher. So it's kind of like crazy for me to be quitting like a very stable job and pursuing student teaching where I'm not paid at all.
Yeah.
I know I've talked about it before on the podcast, but that is coming up very quickly. So just kind of like putting things together, getting my ducks in a row. I cleaned out my desk today, which was kind of like sad.
Wow.
Yeah, well, because like I had a bunch of like random stuff and it's like, well, I don't want to like leave it to the very end, I guess. So I just like packed it all up in my backpack and like took it home today. And I'm like, dang, I don't know. It got me like all sentimental. But it's okay. Like, I've actually not randomly, but like recently been spending a lot of time with my boss, like outside of work. He came, so me and Alex, we had like a movie night. Well, we had like a whole weekend of things, but we had a movie night this past Friday and we watched the new Disney movie Cruella. And so my boss came over to that because he's a big Disney nerd. So he came and enjoyed that with us. But aside from that, like I've been going with him a lot to like dog parks with his 2 dogs. And tomorrow we're going golfing. He's going to teach me how to golf. So that'll be fun. And then he invited me over to his house on Thursday to watch The Bachelor, but I'm like, I'm not really interested. So we'll see if I go to that. I don't know if I will. So it makes me like feel good that the people that I'm close to at my work, I'm still going to be close to even after I quit and after I'm gone. So it's all okay. It's just kind of like a lot is changing around me very rapidly. And I don't know, it's kind of like intense. I'm trying to not be overwhelmed by it, but it's a lot. And then lastly, I don't know if I mentioned this in prior podcasts, but I've had a lot of stress recently in terms of my schooling because so what happened is basically I'm getting a dual credential for being a teacher in special ed and also single subject English. But I guess it's not really common. I guess if you get a dual credential, usually you get it in special ed and you get it in multi-subject because as an ed specialist, you can teach special ed at all grade levels. And so it makes most sense for you to also get your multi-subject because then you can be like at the elementary, you could be at the school, da, 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 da. So I guess that's generally what people do, but I'm like, I don't want to teach elementary 100%. So I'm getting my single subject. And I guess my college didn't take into account that people could possibly do that. And so there's 2 classes that I need, and they're both offered in the summer. And so I was planning, okay, I need these 2 classes in order to start my student teaching in the fall. And they're at the exact same time and on the exact same day, which is very annoying because there's only like 5 classes total offered in the summer for like the master's like program for teaching.
That's horrible planning.
Yeah. And I'm like, okay. So then I talked to my advisor and I was like, hey, so what do I do? Because I need these classes done so that I can student teach in the fall. And like, I can't take them both at the same time. And so she was like, well, I have 2 options for you and neither of them are great. She's like, one, either you can just take one class now, student teach for one subject in the fall, take the other class, and then student teach for the other one in the spring. So I would effectively be student teaching for a whole year instead of just for one semester. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. And then the other option was she was like, you have to like do your due diligence, do your research, and find another school that has an equivalent course and take that course at like either enroll in another school, take the course at another school, and then transfer it to our school. But it's a lot of work because one, I had to find a course that is equivalent. Because it's not like, like EDUC, like 501 it's not gonna be called EDUC 501 at another school,
Right.
So I had to like go through all these different schools, first see if they would accept like open enrollment, which is basically like I enroll in the school just to take a class, not necessarily to like finish a program with them.
Right.
So I had to find a school that does that. I had to find a school that had summer courses that were like, because I needed a specific course. So like I needed to find summer courses that match that course. I had to get it approved by my advisor. And I had to do this all like in a matter of a few weeks because when because I didn't anticipate this happening. Otherwise, if I knew this was going to happen, I would have been doing this months ago. But I didn't anticipate it happening until they released, like they opened up like, oh, time to register for summer courses. And I saw that the times were exactly the same. So like this was a few weeks ago and like summer starts right now. Like literally this week I start my first course. So I was panicking. Ultimately, I found a course that worked at Cal Poly. But here's the thing. I and you also, Alex, because you went to Laverne with me, a private school. I don't know if I'm spoiled or I don't know if I just am used to competent people helping me. But I couldn't believe the level of incompetence at state schools because I like contacted multiple state schools. I contacted like Cal State, LA, San Francisco State, like a bunch of different state schools that I was trying to like see if I could do online. And Cal Poly was the only one that like, first of all, they didn't even get back to me, but like I found a course that matched one of the courses I needed. So I was trying to enroll in it. And every single time that I would try to ask someone like, hey, like, how do I do this? What is the next step? Like they would just like pawn me off to someone else. And like, no one really had answers. And finally they were like, oh, you have to like register for this open enrollment thing, wait for an email. So I'm doing the whole process, right? And it gets to the point where it's just like, okay, now submit the course you want to take. And I did. And then I hadn't heard back for like 2 weeks and time is running out. Like I'm saying, like literally this week is like the first week I'm starting. So I'm just like, okay. So I email like their registrar or whatever. I'm like, hey, like, when will I know if I got in this course? Cause I kind of need to know. And they're like, oh, like, I don't know. You have to like contact the professor. And I'm like, okay, well,
what?
Where is the information for who the professor is? So I'm like looking everywhere. I find the name of the professor and it doesn't give me any contact information. I'm like literally Googling her name, like Cal Poly, the professor's name, like nothing. And I email the person, I'm like, hey, can you provide me with their contact information? And they respond, oh, sorry, we don't know it. And I'm like, don't you work there? Like, you can't figure it out? And you can't figure it out. And you expect me, someone who doesn't even go to the school, to figure it out? And so I just took a shot in the dark and I did like the first letter, the first name, the last name at like cpp.edu. And I was like, hey, I really hope this is such and such. Like, can you accept me into your class? And like a kid responded and they're just like, sorry, I'm a student there. And I'm like, oh my God, like it was impossible. And so finally I was like, this is not going to work. Like I cannot waste my time hoping for this stupid class to like work out because like no one's telling me and I don't even know, da 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 da. And so I found another course at Laverne because thank you, Laverne, that worked. But the only issue was that it was a freaking private school. It is double the price to take this one course. So if I would have taken it at Cal Poly, it would have been like 1,300-ish. And at Laverne, it's 3,700 for one freaking course. Oh my God. And so literally I had to shovel it out. Like I was like, what? I don't have another option. I don't want to student teach for a whole year. I'm just going to pay for this dang course. And I know like people are listening to this and they're just like, you have to pay for your courses anyway if you're at your own college. But here's the thing, I don't because I work for the college I go to. So I get a free education. So I don't pay for any courses that I take there. So this is super annoying that because the stupid faculty didn't think maybe a person wants to take these two courses and maybe we have so much time in the summer, but we have to put these two courses at the exact same time. Didn't take into consideration that now I have to pay $4,000 at another private school to take this dang course in the summer.
I'm so sorry.
It's been so stressful. It's been so stressful. But alas, it's fine. And I start my course at Laverne this Thursday. And the other annoying thing is that like this stupid course is so long. It starts this week and it goes all the way through August. And I'm like, my course at Whittier starts next week and ends in July.
That's lame.
But I'm not letting it get to me. Can't you tell?
At least you're able to take it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to be positive, especially because there's like a lot of employment opportunities coming my way. Unfortunately, in terms of special ed, which I was really hoping to not take special ed, but there's like literally so many opportunities coming my way to stay at South Hills too and be a special ed teacher. Right. And so I can't say no. And so for that reason, because I was really at the point, like when the CPP wasn't getting back to me, I was really at the point just being like, you know what? I don't even want to teach special ed. I'm just not going to get my credential. I know I need one more class for it, but I'm just not even going to get that credential. I'm just going to get the English credential and be done with it. And then literally like 3 different people were just like, hey, we have a special ed job opening up like at the end of next year. You need to get your credential. And I'm like, oh my God. So here I am, $4,000 poorer.
Well, we're just like going to sit here and hoping that it ends up being something good, once you get your credential, that'll end up paying you back in some way,
You know what would be the most annoying thing really? Is if I'm going through all this trouble to get both my single subject and my ed specialist credential, and then I don't teach either, and I just teach business with my CTE credential that I just applied for. That would be the real annoying thing.
Well, we're not going to think about that right now.
Anyway, so that was my week update. Alex, how was yours?
So, my week has been good, as you've already said. It's been busy. Like, I mean, that's a big part of why we didn't get to do a podcast for last week. It's just like, it's been so busy. I think you and I both are going through so much transition right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All over that it's kind of like, well, we just need to take a minute to get ourselves, on the right track. The really funny thing is that it seems that you have owned me for 2 weekends in a row.
I know, like, literally.
We spent at least Friday and Saturday together for 2 weekends in a row.
What did we do last weekend?
So the weekend before was our friends, when we're celebrating our friends, right? In Pasadena.
Oh, that's right.
And then Eduardo's birthday.
Oh, that's right. Oh my God, you're right. I did have you for 2 weekends.
And then this weekend, what did we do on Friday?
We went to Felipe's house.
Yeah, dinner at Felipe's house, which is awesome. We watched Spy Kids, you guys. Can we just like take a minute on that?
This podcast is actually a Spy Kids movie review.
Watching Spy Kids after all that time, it was really, really crazy. Like I told my my siblings the next day, just like, guess what I watched last night? I watched Spy Kids. And they're just kind of like, oh, so how do you like it after all this time? I'm just like, I'll tell you what, Junie is a little punk.
Junie is so annoying. It's unbelievable.
It's kind of like, what a useless kid, man. Like, I think you felt for him a little bit more when you were like that age.
Oh, 100. I remember being like, oh, Junie, like he's just, he's just that kid. He's okay. And then now, like as an adult watching him, like I would throw this kid off a cliff. Like I would be like, you're dead weight, man. You're staying home.
Right. Just totally on Carmen's side on that one. Yeah, Carmen, just beat him up.
Literally. Carmen was the best. She was super cool.
And then the next day, we had the longest of long days. I had breakfast with my family at 7:30.
Which is already heinous.
Yeah. So I was up by like 6:30 so I could like take a shower and stuff too. Yeah, 7:30 breakfast with my parents. And then 9 a.m. yoga class with you. Because we wanted to do it because it was $5. But here's the thing, you guys. Like it's in this yoga studio is in Claremont, right across, well, like right around the corner from like a really nice park. Which when you think like outdoor class, like if they're at a regular studio, you wouldn't necessarily think like you'd think they go to maybe like a park or something, especially since it's like around the corner from them. But no. So what they decided to do was they had like this like second floor patio sort of deal attached to their new studio directly in the sunlight. Basically no shade at all.
Yeah. I mean, in their defense, I can see the thought process and not wanting to go to like a park because like you can't really account for like noise or like interruptions. So I get it. But nonetheless, it did not work out. It was way too hot.
Yeah, because like by the end of it, the instructor was just kind of like, yeah, we made a mistake. The next time I think we're just gonna, have this in the studio. Because like, here's the thing, right? It's like, it was kind of, more so in the morning, which is fine. But this is Southern California, June. It's the summer now. It's gonna be hot. And if I was really anticipating it being in direct sunlight, then I would have worn sunscreen. But I did not.
The good news is that you were not as sunburnt as I was anticipating you were going to be.
Yes. That was like the grace of God right there, by the way, that I didn't get like, because here's the thing, man, like I've been inside for like a year. So like it's easier to get sunburnt that way because like I hadn't been spending much time in the sun. And we spent an hour and 15 minutes doing that class. So like that was an hour and 15 minutes of unprotected sun time.
Yeah, it was intense. You got to really give your skin props for holding up that long.
Yeah, because like I did get sunburnt for sure. Yeah, like that's true, but it wasn't like it didn't hurt. I mean, my skin felt a little bit tight, but it was really awesome because when I got home, I just, put some generous amount of aloe on both arms. And when I woke up the next morning, the sunburns are gone.
That's awesome. That's so
I know,
good.
Right? I feel like, thank you, Lord. So good. But yeah, so we did that at 9 and then right afterwards went to brunch, which was good. It was a good brunch. And then ran around for the next like part of the day trying to get ready for 2 different birthday parties. Man alive, was that like the longest day ever. I was so exhausted when I got home that night. And I'll tell you what, the next morning I was still exhausted.
I was pretty tired too. I don't think I was as tired as you because I feel like at the end of the night I looked over at you and you were just like like you were like yawning and I was like, oh, poor Alex. I don't think I was quite as tired as you, but I was really tired. And the next day I was definitely sore.
I wasn't really that sore. I mean, granted, you did a lot more of the movements than I did because like here's like my really big thing when we were doing that yoga, which I actually really appreciated from the instructor, is like her emphasis on
going at your own pace.
Yeah, going at your own pace and like doing the poses to the extent that it makes sense to your body. Like it's not meant to be something that's like, overly taxing. It's supposed to be like mindfulness and relaxation and blah blah blah. So like, if you can't like do the pose or if you just want to go like back into child pose and just rest because that's what your body's telling you, then do that. So I'm just like, hey man, I got nothing to prove. I'm just gonna go back into child's pose and I just don't feel like doing this stuff anymore. So that's probably why I was less sore than you, because I think for the most part just did all the movements.
I did all the movements until the very end. Our friend Sharon who went with us, she kept going like past me and I was like, I'm tapping out. My body is shaking. Like I can no longer do this. But it was really good. Yeah, like you said, the instructor was really great at like, and that's how I've experienced most yoga instructors to be with the courses I've personally taken. Very like accommodating to like the varying levels of ability, which I think is like, it's very welcoming to like people who aren't accustomed to doing exercise. Because I know a lot of times like people say like, I don't want to go to the gym because I feel intimidated and like da 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 da. So I feel like yoga is a really good alternative to where like you don't have to feel like you have to be at a certain level. You know what I mean?
Right, yeah. And I like, because I haven't taken that was the first time I took like a formal yoga class.
Mm-hmm.
And I like the way that the different poses really like fed into each other as far as like flow goes.
Flowed.
Stop.
Hence the name of the class.
Anyway, because like, certain movements that like were more difficult to do because you hadn't stretched out that particular part as much, like as like where the repetition was going on, like it was easier to do because we're more stretched out at that point. But yeah, it was an overall interesting experience. I want to do it again, but indoors to actually like get an accurate feeling on how I liked it.
I feel that. I agree. And we will.
Yeah. It was a good time. Ultimately a good day. Although towards the end of the day on Saturday and then basically all day on Sunday, I was super cranky. I was so tired. I'm just like, I can't do any of this anymore.
Well, probably not a great idea to just do an entire day of activity.
Well, see, that's the thing, right? Like, all this time spent in quarantine, like you don't have as much tolerance for the sort of stuff anymore.
Right.
And maybe it's also because we're just getting older. I don't know. Not that we're that old, because we're definitely not. But I'm just kind of like, am I just breaking down a little bit? I don't have the energy that I used to have.
Probably a combination, I would say.
Ugh, disgusting.
But anyway, anything else in your updates?
No, that's pretty much it. It was a good 2 weekends though. And I tell you, it's so dumb. That entire time I put off doing my laundry for like 2 weeks. So I did all my laundry yesterday. I spent a really long time putting that all away and it made me really upset. I hate laundry most of all.
It probably did not add to the crankiness, I'm sure.
Oh man. But anyway, so that was my week. Good times. But now let's get into the meat of what we're here to do. All right. So to explain a little bit of context here, what we're going to be doing. So we're going to be ranking Marvel movies. So, as one can imagine, there are a lot of Marvel movies out there. So, like, when we say that Marvel movies, we mean the movies that they made that are in the different quote unquote phases that they've been like planning out for years. So, the phase starting out with Iron Man. Because maybe people don't know this as much, but there are other actual Marvel movies that were made before, like, original, and by say original, I mean original to our generation, like Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies. And like technically Blade is a Marvel movie.
Fantastic Four.
Yeah, all that stuff. So we're not talking about those.
We're talking about the Avengers phased universe.
Right. So, and because it's such a daunting list to rank out just, by itself, what we decided that we do is we're going to rank the movies within the different phases that they were released in. And then we'll do some other fun rankings at the end after we rank those phases. We shall begin at phase 1, which is, and we'll list out the movies in each phase. So in phase 1, we got Iron Man, which was released in 2008. Incredible Hulk, which was also released in 2008. And that one is the Incredible Hulk that features Edward Norton. So Drea's homeboy.
Love him.
Then we got Iron Man 2 in 2010, Thor in 2011, Captain America the First Avenger also in 2011, and then rounding out the end of phase 1 is the first Avengers movie in 2012. All right, let's hear it, Drea. How do you rank phase 1 of the Marvel movie franchise?
Okay, should I rank like 1 to 6 or 6 to 1?
Either way is fine. I think actually 6 to 1 might be fun.
Okay. So, no shocker here. My number 6 movie, The Incredible Hulk.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And how could it not be? Yeah. Because, I mean, I love Edward Norton. Don't get me wrong. Fight Club is one of my all-time favorite movies. But it's just, nobody cares about this movie, to put it nicely. Like, it is the most boring out of the bunch. And he's also not even the Hulk that continues on. Like, eventually it's Mark Ruffalo, and it's just like, okay, who's Edward Norton? Most people don't even know that this movie is considered canon among the like Avenger universe. So that's my number 6. Do you want to say your number 6, or should we just all mine, or do you want to go back and forth?
Actually, let's do that. We'll do the first one. I'll say my number 6 and then we'll just go up.
Okay.
That sounds fun. So, also unsurprisingly, my number 6 is also The Incredible Hulk. For, I mean, a ton of reasons. One, just like in general, it's out of all the movies in this list in the phase 1, it's just the least strong. Like there's no two ways about it. It's just the weakest movie there, and it is what it is. I also don't particularly, care for Edward Norton. Like, he's fine, but I never particularly enjoyed anything he's been in besides, I mean, I like The Illusionist. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, The Illusionist is good.
But yeah, so I didn't really love that. Didn't really love Liv Tyler as the love interest either. Like, the whole movie is just kind of whatever to me. I mean, it's definitely better than the Eric Bana Hulk, which was made, I think, in 2005 maybe. But anyway, not really great movie. I'd love to see a Mark Ruffalo Hulk movie. That'd be awesome. But we'll see how that goes. Anyway, what's your number 5?
I think, sorry, right before I get to number 5, I think there was like rumors that they were thinking about making a Mark Ruffalo Hulk movie, and it's supposed to take place in the time period after, what is that? Age of Ultron and Thor Ragnarok.
Oh, so when he's missing?
When he's missing, yeah.
Okay, cool.
I think is interesting, and I would definitely watch that movie. But anyway, yeah, sure. Okay, my number 5, and here's a hot take. Captain America, the First Avenger.
We're just going to take a moment to clap there, guys. Clap for Andrea Madrigal. That is the most amazing thing I've ever heard. I love it.
It is just... Here's the thing. My husband included, everyone and their mom loves Captain America. And I'm not saying I don't. I think he's great. He's grand. But I just don't think that his movies are that good. Well, I take that back. I'm not even gonna get into it. I don't think this movie is that good. It's just I like his character progression. I really like him at the end of the series in Endgame. I think that Captain America is like a stellar character, but at this point, he's such a goody play by the book, like soldier warrior, and I'm just like, just whatever, man. Like I guess people really respect him for like America Pride. Ugh. I am not into it. Like I'm just like, it's too corny for me. I'm not a fan.
I love that answer so much. I really do. And here's the funny thing about my number 5 is that actually when I first did this rankings for myself, I had Captain America, the First Avenger, and another movie tied for 4th, actually.
Okay.
Because I was kind of like feeling I had my different like misgivings about both of them, but ultimately I actually put Iron Man 2 in the 5th spot.
Ooh, hot take.
Although I feel like I totally agree with you, by the way, Andrea, about your, whole take on Captain America. I totally agree. One thing I will say, so I put Iron Man 2 in the 5th spot ranking. Really, if I would have just kept it tied for 4, just because here's the thing, it's like I don't really like the Iron Man sequels a ton.
Okay.
I feel like they fall into like the typical sequel thing where they're just kind of like whatever, like they kind of are, lukewarm, watered down, all that stuff.
Respect.
I mean, so it just didn't really do a ton for me. The bad guy in it was super annoying. Well, not like Mickey Rourke, like the other guy who was pulling the strings, that guy.
Oh, Hammer?
Yeah, Hammer. He was pretty annoying.
Yeah, he is very annoying.
It does get a good opportunity though for you to get introduced to Black Widow, so that's cool. But ultimately, it's not like an amazing movie. But I guess since I already said that it was a tie, I'll say then that my number 4 was Captain America for all of the reasons that you said.
Yeah.
Although I will say that the first Captain America movie to me was the best one of his, movie series. Like
really?
To me, yes.
Okay. We'll come back to that comment later.
So what's your number 4?
My number 4. Dun, 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 Iron Man 2. So funny you should say it. I actually enjoy Iron Man 2, but that also goes to say that I enjoy a lot of the movies in this phase. So I agree with you. Like as far as sequels go, it's not that great, and I feel like as the sequels progress for Iron Man, they get progressively worse.
Yeah.
But this one I still feel is like it's not that great, but it's still enjoyable. I don't mind watching it. Is it my first choice? Not so much, but I don't necessarily have anything negative to say about it. You know what I'm saying? Like it's
Right.
just
Yeah.
fine. Like it's just there.
Right. Yeah.
And I definitely think that um Tony Stark is like annoying in this movie in a way,
Yeah.
but
Mm-hmm.
it's a good it like has to happen in order for one, Black Widow to be introduced, two, you see what's his face, Nick Fury come in, and three, you get introduced to War Machine. So like it's
Yeah.
a very pivotal movie in terms of introducing new characters into the storyline. But yeah, it could have been a little bit better in terms of like the villain.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally true.
But yeah,
Awesome.
let's since we've kind of flip-flopped here, let's hear your number three.
Number 3, I have The Avengers.
I also have the Avengers for number three.
That's good. I like this. All right.
Say your reasoning.
So I think that The Avengers is a pretty good movie overall. Like I'm into it. Like I
Yeah.
really am. So, it was really cool for like the first time ever to see all these heroes on, in one movie. That was pretty awesome to
Mm-hmm.
like see all these different people come in. I think that was the introduction to Mark Ruffalo as Bruce Banner,
Mm-hmm.
which is awesome because he's my favorite Hulk to date.
Mm-hmm.
So like that adds in like a really cool thing. I really like the way that they all banter together.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a lot of fun just in general. And it's one of those like really awesome movies. Like you see all these like characters that you really like all together, like doing some cool stuff. So I'm just like, this is nice. I enjoy it. I don't think it's, as strong as some of the standalone first movies that are in this first phase list because there's some really strong contenders that we both haven't said yet. They're, in the 1 or 2 spots.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if it was in a different phase, then maybe it would be ranked differently because there's a lot more sequels, in the other phases, but it's really strong. I like it. There's a lot of good moments in it. And then Loki being the bad guy was a really good one too. Bringing him back as one of the main bad guys is awesome. And then I'm pretty sure like towards the end there, like in the after credits things is like when you first get the hint of Thanos.
Yes. Uh-huh.
So it's just kind of like it's a good way to end that chapter, that phase of Marvel, by giving you a little sprinkling of what's to come.
Yeah. I 100% agree, Alex. I think that it is very fun. Like I'm a big fan obviously of like the X-Men, and I feel like a lot of the reason I really enjoy that is to see like the plethora of different like superheroes working together towards like the greater good, whatever. So any
Yeah.
movie where like superheroes come together and they're all like working together is very exciting to me. So seeing this movie with like, all like at this point all the characters that have had the standalone movies come together and start fighting, it was very, very fun. I have literally nothing bad to say about this movie. I wish, like you said, if it was in like phase two, this would be my number one for sure.
Right. Yeah.
But being that it's in phase one with like some good contenders, it has to be three because I feel like there's like, you can't make a superhero movie where you're bringing in a group of superheroes together be above the introduction to like those superheroes. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
if you were intro to them, how can you even like them in like the together
Yeah.
movie? I don't know if that makes sense, like the words coming out of my mouth, but I think you get what I'm saying.
It makes sense to me. No, totally, because it's just kind of like you can't have this Avengers movie without the stuff that precedes it, right? So
Correct.
like,
Yes.
you know, really like one of the ones like obviously we might not feel the same way about top 2. I think that we might have flip-flopped going
Mm-hmm.
forward here. I
Mm-hmm.
really think that we have, but like Iron Man started the whole thing. So like you can't like that needs to rank somewhere higher, I think, than
Absolutely.
but I feel like I know someone who would say like, oh no, like Avengers, like all the way, blah blah blah. But anyway, point being, we agree. We might not agree on our number 2, but go for it. Say your number 2.
I'm curious. Okay, my number two, and this was so hard for me because I was like you with the whole like tied for number four, but for me it was tied for number one because these two movies are like so good and they're
And I can
so my
respect that.
favorite.
I can respect that.
So my
Say it.
number two, I ultimately went with Thor.
shook. You guys, I am shook. That's the most amazing thing I've ever heard. We did our top 3 is the same, man.
We did it, Alex.
Quit now.
Oh my
Amazing. All right,
God.
let's hear it.
Okay, so oh God. It was so hard, and I know Alex is shooketh because I love Chris Hemsworth and I
You
love
love,
Thor.
because what's not to love, man? He's the
What's not
hottest
to
one for
love?
sure.
He's so hot. He's so funny. He's so likable. His character development is out of this world. I mean, like character development and character like crumbling is out of this world. And I think that Thor is enjoyable. It is my most rewatched movie, or like one of my most rewatched movies out of all the Avengers movies. I feel like the visuals in this movie are probably some of my favorite out of all of the movies. Like anytime that they're in Asgard, the Rainbow Bridge, Heimdall, like they're all so amazing. Like I love it when they go to like the where is it, that planet where like they like have the fight in the beginning with the snow giants,
Oh,
ice giants or whatever
yeah.
they are.
Frost giants, I think.
Frost giants, that's the word. Well, whatever that planet is, like when they go there, the whole fight, like I just feel like the visuals and the fight scenes in this movie are like so good. And Thor learning, like I just really like the story arc of like him having to become worthy. Like you're not just a hero because you're born a hero, you know? Like you have to be worthy of being a hero. And I just love that story arc. Like I really think that the storytelling in this movie is just phenomenal.
Yeah.
How about you? What do you think?
So definitely super agree with everything that you said. I love Thor's character development in this movie. Like, he has to really learn something. He has to struggle. And then also there's a super iconic, him drinking the coffee and then just throwing and saying another. Because like, who hasn't done that? Who hasn't reenacted that kind of like said another?
That was unscripted.
I bet it was.
Yeah, like he was just supposed to say like another and like announce it, but then he like had the mug in his hand. He was just like another and like threw it on the ground, and all the reactions like Darcy and everyone's like scream, like that was like authentic.
Oh man,
I love it.
So like some really good, just funny moments, some just really good character development. Although I feel like that besides Fat Thor, that's the worst his character look, because like his hair was way too bleached. And like his eyebrows are like basically like white almost.
Yeah.
So I did love that. But like just love, the whole thing with that. Loki's a really great villain. So gotta love that. Heimdall's really cool. Bringing in Idris Elba into the fold. Awesome. Amazing. So there's nothing to hate about this movie. It's a great movie. And I think that it could only be taken out by the movie that comes above it.
Exactly, Alex. And that's why I had such a hard time placing it as my number 2, because you can't not place Iron Man as number 1.
Right.
Especially the first Iron Man. It is just
because like you think
such a good movie.
Yeah, because you think about like the time that it came out in, right? Like I feel like just like, how it was made, the special effects that it used and all that stuff, I felt like it was kind of a pioneer for movies at that time.
Absolutely.
Because all this really cool special effects and the tech stuff and like just how it was visually beautiful. Like all the things that they used in this movie, like the whole interface with Jarvis and then all that stuff, like it was just the coolest movie that you ever seen. Like I could still remember sitting in the movie theater watching it. Not that I don't remember other movies that I've watched, but like this has a very special impression on my brain where I'm just kind of like, I'm witnessing something super cool and super unique. And it was the start of this entire movie franchise. And, talk about character development.
Oh, yeah.
Tony Stark was so depraved as a human being. And then, he goes through what he goes through in the cave and whatever. And like, he becomes a whole new person and becomes the hero that we want him to be. While still at the same time being super hilarious. Because I just think that Tony Stark is hilarious. He's just so great. And I think that the way that he's, full of himself and whatever is hilarious. I love it. And like Obadiah Stane as like a bad guy, he's a really dope bad guy. He's a really cool bad guy. I love the way that they riff off each other and stuff. The whole thing was just amazing. All the characters were great. And it's the godfather of the whole thing. You can't have this franchise without Iron Man.
You really can't. And I think you said it best, Alex. Like literally, like it was a turning point for these Marvel movies. And I would go as far as to say like action movies and superhero
Yeah.
movies in general. Like it's just the way, and I've actually said this recently when I was watching Wonder Woman, what is it, 18, whatever, or 1984, whatever.
At 1984.
And like I didn't love that movie. I thought it was okay. But one of the things that like I specifically did not like about that movie, and I said this time and time again to whoever would listen to me, was that like as much as I love Gal Gadot and as much as I wanted to be rah-rah behind like a, you know, a female superhero and like a female-led movie, DC directors, producers, the studio as a whole cannot perfect a fight scene quite like Marvel can.
Mm-hmm.
Like in all the scenes with like Gal Gadot like doing her like fight moves and everything, like it was just you can tell it was acting versus things like this movie like Iron Man specifically, like, you know, being that it was the first one that was made, it was a while ago, like it was before like they really had like all the CGI and special effects like really figured out. And
Mm-hmm.
yet the whole movie is so believable. Like it looks like it's really happening.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Well,
And
and
that
like
it's just it's crazy.
yeah, it's also one of those things, right? Like I think that the hallmark of a really good like superhero movie is like making you of the opinion that no other actor can play this part. So like
Absolutely.
the only Iron Man there could ever be in my mind is Robert Downey Jr. In the
Absolutely.
same way that the only Thor can be
Oh,
Chris Hemsworth.
I
The
thought you were gonna
only,
say Wolverine.
yeah, the only Wolverine can be Hugh Jackman. The only
Yeah.
Captain America, even I don't like Captain America, but I only want him to be Chris Hemsworth.
You mean
No, sorry,
Chris
not Chris Hemsworth.
Chris Evans?
Evans. Yeah, they're right. Sorry.
Yeah.
Chris Evans. Like, you know, they've done a really good job of being like, I only want these actors to play these heroes.
Yeah. I agree with you.
I mean, for the most part. Like Spider-Man, obviously, we've already gone over how I have
We've
complicated
had to
feelings about that.
accept that. Yeah.
I really like Tom Holland as Spider-Man. I really do, but I
I
feel
do
like
too.
there's a not I don't love him as much. Like he doesn't take over my entire heart as far as Spider-Man goes.
Because
But
we
like
had Andrew Garfield.
right, exactly. But for like the most part, like all the main Avengers, like they could only be played by the actors they're being played as. Whereas like in the DC universe of movies, I can be fine if they change up the actors in it. Like if
I
Gal
agree.
Gadot isn't going to be playing Wonder Woman anymore, I'd be like, okay, sure.
Yeah, I totally get that, Alex, and I agree with you entirely. I think Marvel has done a really great job at copywriting the actor to the character.
Yeah, just kind of like, well, this story's dead forever now. Like now that, you know, spoilers, I guess, if you haven't seen, you know, Endgame and don't know that Iron Man's dead now.
Who are you if you haven't? Okay, we have taken so long on phase one
Sorry.
though. Let's move on to
Sorry.
phase two. Alex, what is your number 6? Oh, let's first read out the movies in phase two.
All right.
So in
Sorry.
phase two, we have the first one that came out, Iron Man 3, which debuted in 2013. Thor: The Dark World, also in 2013. Captain America: The Winter Soldier, 2014. Guardians of the Galaxy, ooh, a new one in the mix, 2014. Avengers: Age of Ultron, 2015. And lastly, Ant-Man, the first one, 2015.
Yes. And this is really the start of something that I'm just going to put this out right now. This is really the start of something where it's so crazy to think because it's been a while since we've had, I feel like, a big, you know, Marvel movie come out.
Mm-hmm.
But it's crazy to think that more than one Marvel movie was premiering in a year.
Yeah, that's a wild thought for sure.
Because like in phase 3, there's a ton within, you know, a span of 1 year that's coming out. So we'll get to that one later. But like, you know, just having Winter Soldier and Guardians of that Galaxy come out in the same year is crazy. Especially since like it does, like when I'm thinking back, it doesn't register even in my mind that way.
Yeah.
But anyway, so number 6, and I don't have any regrets saying this because I feel like to me it's the obvious choice.
I think
Number
I'm gonna
6
agree with you.
is Iron Man 3.
Oh, okay. I did not agree with you on this one.
Really?
Okay. Go on, explain.
Oh, Iron Man 3 was so annoying to me. Oh my goodness. Especially since like I felt like I was a little bit disappointed by Iron Man 2. like there's a lot of redeeming points in Iron Man 2, but Iron Man 3 is really like tough for me to watch, mostly because they gave Tony really intense PTSD
Yeah.
that he's suffering with for a majority of the movie. And I'm just kind of like, bro, please relax. I think the only really redeeming part of that movie to me is when like they reveal like the bad guy to be like a figurehead at the end, like the actor playing the bad guy. He's really funny.
Yeah.
Once they reveal that he's not the bad guy anymore and he's just like, playing around or whatever, he's really funny.
I agree.
But other than that, it really just didn't do a ton for me. And then, the whole Tony and Pepper fighting dynamic was just really annoying. I didn't need that there and all this, whatever. So I didn't really like it, especially since I loved Iron Man so much.
Yeah.
That movie was a disappointment. But now I'm really curious to hear what your number 6 was.
Okay, it's really funny because when you're just like, and no shocker here, I really thought you were going to say my number 6 because in my opinion, this is a no shocker here. But my number 6 is Avengers Age of Ultron.
Interesting.
I hate this movie. I will go as far as to say I hate this movie. I think it's awful. I think it's by far out of every single movie that was made by Avengers, this one was the single worst one. Like out of every single one of them.
Okay, so I'm gonna let you get to that in a second, like really unpack that. But I will say that like if I was doing the tie things, because I'm trying not to really do the tie things here.
Okay.
If I was gonna do the ties, I would actually do a 3-way tie for last between Iron Man 3, Age of Ultron, and then a different movie. So yeah, I get you. I really do get you because I didn't like it either, but continue with what you're going to say.
It's really funny you say that, Alex, because I agree with you entirely. I feel like phase 2 is the absolute worst phase out of all of them. I had the most, like, I actually liked 2 movies in this section and every other one I was just like, they all suck. But yeah, Age of Ultron, it's a stressful movie. There's nothing that's fun about it. Like it literally off the get-go, like, Tony Stark is being like addressed, or no, that's a different movie. But like the whole like Wanda Maximoff and Pietro dynamic of like them being bad, which they are bad, like they are bad in X-Men, but like the way that they introduce them as bad, and then like at the end how Wanda becomes part of the crew and how Pietro dies for Hawkeye and how they just like Ultron is just such this like ugly character, like how he destroys Jarvis and just everything about it. Like everything about this movie is uncomfortable for me. There's nothing fun or like Avengers rah about it. Like I just hate it. Like nothing about it is a fun watch to me.
Right. I don't disagree with you. However, obviously I disagreed with you on it being the worst one.
Right.
So, okay, cool. So moving on to number 5 then.
Go ahead.
So I feel like I don't know where this is going to land on your list because I do agree that there's only a certain amount of tolerable ones within phase 2.
I think I know what you're going to say.
My number 5 is Captain America Winter Soldier.
Oh, okay. That one I thought. Okay, that's fair.
I mean, I in general don't really like Captain America that much. This movie didn't really do a ton for me. I don't really have like a lot to say about it. I mean, oh, hey, Bucky's back.
Yeah, Alex. So Captain America Winter Soldier is also my number 5. Ooh. And exactly what you're saying. Like, I really don't have much to say about it because I've watched it once because it just wasn't exciting for me.
And to me, like, it's the precursor of a lot of really annoying things later. Like, this is the start of something annoying.
Absolutely. And I do like Bucky as a character. Like, I really like him. But this movie's just boring. Like, it's just such a boy movie. You know what I mean?
And correct me if I'm wrong, this is actually the first intro to Black Panther.
Yes, it is. No.
Isn't it? No, wait. No, I'm wrong. That's Civil War.
It's Civil War.
But I will say that we did miss back in the phase 1 that Thor was the first intro to Hawkeye. Which is another really great thing about it. It's just like, hey, there's Hawkeye. But anyway.
So quick, but it was.
Anyway, so Bucky being back.
Yay. Okay, number 4. Age of Ultron.
No.
Oh my god, how high did Age of Ultron get on your list, Alex?
So Ant-Man is in my number 4, mostly
I
because
knew
it's so
it.
benign to me.
I
It's
knew
like, it's just
it.
whatever, like, it's funny, and there are really funny parts of this, right? Like, I
Uh-huh.
could not stop laughing when, oh my goodness, what's his name? Why can't I remember his name right now? The actor who plays the old man.
Douglas.
Yeah, Michael Douglas.
Michael Douglas.
He is hilarious. I love his one-liners so much.
Mm-hmm.
And him calling what's his face's friends a bunch of wombats is hilarious to me. I
Mm-hmm.
died each time I would watch that part. But the
Mm-hmm.
thing is, like, it didn't really feel like a very good superhero movie to me, especially even as a first one, like the introductory one,
Mm-hmm.
just because it's more of just a comedy to me than it is a superhero movie. I mean,
Sure.
it definitely is a superhero movie, but I'm just kind of like, I think that of the introductory hero movies, this is the weakest one.
We all are familiar with your opinions on Ant-Man, Alex. We all
I'm
know
not
you're
saying it was a
not
bad
an
movie.
Ant-Man fan. Okay, that's fair. So that was what, your number 4, you said?
Yeah. And you know
Okay.
what? You're right. I should have placed Age of Ultron lower. Actually, I'm gonna place that one as number 4, really, if I'm gonna be honest. And Ant-Man is number 3. I think I just had a problem placing Ant-Man higher because it's more of a comedy to me. But I'll go real quick and on Age of Ultron because I'm placing that as my new number 4.
Sure.
Because it's all the things that you said it was. It was very stressful to watch, I feel like.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a certain energy about Ultron and like his character that I think gets you really anxious and worked up because of the way he talks.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
That just like is grating. It grates on you the entire movie and it gets you tense. And I also don't like it that it's a precursor to everyone hating on the Avengers for what happened to that city, as if they could have done anything differently.
Yeah, like should they have just let him kill everyone instead? Like, yeah, it's dumb.
It's kind of like, how is this
Um,
preferable to you? I don't understand what you really were expecting. Although I will say that the one shining moment of this movie is when they're all they have like a really candid moment with all the characters when they're having drinks and whatever, just
oh
like
yeah.
goofing around and they're all trying to lift Thor's hammer.
Yeah, that's a
Like
fun
I
scene.
really love that scene. I really hate losing Jarvis in that way. Like I'm glad that Paul Bettany like got a bigger role and getting to play Vision. However, you miss Jarvis.
Yeah. And that whole scene where Ultron is taking over like Jarvis's like control panel and everything, like it's a very stressful scene. Like I know they're AIs, like they're not living things, but
Yeah.
it it has like this kind of like visceral react, or you have this kind of visceral reaction to it where it's just you feel like you just feel wrong, like you feel
Yeah.
uncomfortable watching it. So yeah, I really like that scene where they're trying to lift the hammer, but like the scene that like goes right before it, and then the scene how like the hammer situation ends with like Ultron dragging that body across the floor is just
Yeah.
so uncomfortable. I hate it.
Right. So all in all, you heard it here first, folks, that I'm changing Age of Ultron to number 4 and Ant-Man is number 3 for reasons I've already explained. What is your what are we at now?
I'm at 4 still.
Okay.
Okay, so my number 4 is Thor: The Dark World.
I'm not surprised. I know you don't like that movie.
Which, yeah, like I love Thor. I've said it before. He's like probably my favorite Avenger. But this movie is just boring to me. Like I just don't like it. I don't think it's directed well. I don't think that they did as much with the ether that they could have. I feel
Mm-hmm.
like they could have made it like a very kind of like creepy-esque movie, and I just don't feel like I don't get that vibe from it. Like it's just kind of cheesy to me. And I don't know. I don't like how Natalie Portman played such a huge role in this movie and then like literally is like cut out of the universe. I don't know. It's not my favorite, so it warrants my 4th spot. And then I'll go into my 3 since
Yeah.
we did your 3 also. Um my 3 in phase 2 is Iron Man 3, which I
It
agree
made
with
it pretty
you.
high. I
Okay,
made it pretty high.
let me explain myself. I agree with you. It's definitely the worst of the Iron Mans. However, for the exact reason that you don't like it, I feel like I kind of like it
Oh, interesting.
because so the whole PTSD thing that they like, put on Tony it is very like upsetting and like difficult to watch. However, I like the realism that they attach to it, because like I feel like how unrealistic is it that we see all these superhero movies and these people are killing people and they're like fighting like aliens and all this stuff, and then they just like keep going, you know, like it's never phasing them. They just keep going with like their hero life. And I feel like Tony going into outer space, you know, in Avengers when he like puts the freaking rocket out into the like into the other
Yeah.
world and then falls through the vortex and he sees like all this crazy things that are not earthly, and then he basically almost dies. He fought all these aliens in New York. Like it wouldn't make sense for him not to have PTSD. You know what I mean? And I just feel like that take on it and like showing kind of like humanizing superheroes is kind of why I like that movie. And I don't think it was a good movie like that much. Like I think that the storyline lacked, and I feel like what's the bad guy? The guy that's like blowing up everyone. I feel like he wasn't that great, and like the whole Pepper thing, like yeah, not great either. But overall, I appreciate the thought that went into like humanizing Tony as a character.
And I can respect that. I'm not mad at that reasoning. That's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay with me.
Okay. What's your number 2?
And here's the thing is that I feel like I have to know what your rankings for 1 and 2 are, because if they're not the way that I think they are, I'm gonna riot. That's gonna be the hottest take ever. But anyway, so we're just moving on. So number 2 for me actually was Thor: The Dark World.
Okay.
And I just really enjoyed that movie. I think that, you know, since I loved Thor so much, and that to me, this sequel didn't suck, just already places it pretty high for me.
Okay.
Just because I'm more predisposed to like it.
Sure.
You know, it was really cool getting to see, you know, Thor and Jane come back together, and then her get a little bit more involved in, you know, Asgard and all that stuff. And then, you know, we're bringing Loki back, and we're having a lot of fun Loki times, and then breaking him out of prison, and, you know, all this really cool stuff. Like, I like that, actually. Like, I felt like this was a pretty okay for a sequel. It was pretty good for a sequel. I think that it probably wouldn't placed as high if it was in a different phase.
Agreed.
I think there was a lot of just not great things in this phase, like as far as the whole scope of movies, because there's so many movies in phase 3.
Yeah.
So many.
Yeah.
So like it's really kind of just like hard to, you know, say how it would place overall, but that's where it places for me, just because it was pretty good compared to all the not so great stuff that came in that phase.
Yeah, I feel you. And why don't you just go to your number 1 right now, since you know you want to hear my 1 and 2. So you do your number 1 and then I'll do my 2 and 1.
All right, so my number 1 is Guardians of the Galaxy.
Okay.
So this was a great movie. I think to anyone who likes classic rock songs is going to be just kind of like, this is a really good movie. This is a good superhero movie to have all these like really, this is a dope soundtrack. It just is great. And then, you know, getting to like meet the whole gang that becomes the Guardians of the Galaxy. Quill is really funny, and gotta love Chris Pratt. He's really good Chris. There's a lot of good
time.
there. Anyway,
I don't stand Chris Pratt anymore, but yeah, I did like him at this point.
Anyway, so I really like Quill. Quill's great. All of them are hilarious. Like, it's different to me in the sense of like, you know, also the characters in Ant-Man are hilarious, but like I'm able to take the, you know, characters in Guardians of the Galaxy more seriously. And it felt like their humor was more so like a side part and not like their main shtick.
Sure.
So really like Rocket, really like Drax. Drax is really funny.
Drax is really funny.
I love Gamora's character development, you know, because like you think that she's bad, but in reality, she's actually trying to do some really good things. Especially considering like the environment she grew up in. So that's really good. And then, you know, it's just a really cool, it's something new, because I feel like a lot of the other movies in this list is not a lot of new material and not enough newcomers in here. So it's just like a breath of fresh air, like, oh, this is an interesting new thing to see.
I agree with that.
Anyway, so let me hear it.
Okay, so my number 1 and 2, I had a hard time choosing. Like, I wanted to rank them both 1, but ultimately I decided to rate them 1 and 2 based off of their rewatchability factor for me. So that being said, my number 2 is Guardians of the Galaxy.
Shut up.
Because exactly for the same reasons you said, I think it was great. I think all the characters are super fun. I like it when there's like multiple superheroes working together. I really like Zoe Saldana's like Gamora character. It's really fun. It's like good. I think it's good. I thought the storyline was really like solid. Which brings me to our number one, which is
I can't
Ant-Man.
believe that Ant-Man's at the top of Phase 2 for you. That's
I love Ant-Man. I love Ant-Man. I love his character. I love all his movies. I think he's funny. And like, yeah, I agree with you. It's like borderline a comedy, but like, who cares? Like, it's a comedy mixed with, like little action, like heist movie. And I feel like that's really fun to me. I really like the villain. I liked how they kind of incorporated this whole like double agent sort of character in what's her face, his girlfriend. I really liked how they incorporated kind of like the dynamics of his family life and how, he has a kid, but like he's divorced and like the new dad is around. And it's just I like that dynamic. Like I like how it shows like, once again, like it humanizes these characters. Like it's not just all hunky dory for them. Like they all struggle also. And I really like in the beginning how it's like when he was in prison and he got out and he was like, oh, well, I have like an engineering degree. I won't have a hard time finding a job. And then he's working at Baskin Robbins, Like
yeah.
I just love how realistic it is to me. Like I just feel like this is a believable character. And he's like relatable because he really isn't anything special. Like he doesn't have superpowers. He works his way into like having this super ability, through his smarts. And I just like that. Like, I just think it's a fun movie and I like Paul Rudd as a character.
Hot takes.
Hot takes.
Hot takes. Well, I mean, I can't give you too much flack for that as like a hot take because I feel like I have a number of hot takes in Phase 3. All right, so, we just talked about all of our Phase 2 favorites, not so favorites. Obviously, Phase 2 we have really complicated feelings about just because there's just a lot of weird middle of the pack movies in there. I mean, Marvel is probably still trying to get the let out a little bit, trying to like really find what they're going for here. But instead of going into Phase 3 right away, we're actually going to save that for the next episode just because it's a gigantic list of movies. We're going to have a lot to discuss as far as that goes. So we're going to actually leave it here and just leave you wanting a little bit more. So that being said, it has been really fun, I think, just getting to see how we actually pretty much agree on a lot of our rankings here. Maybe not like rank for rank, but we have the same general opinion of these for the most part. So that's good to see.
Yeah, we definitely like a lot more than I thought we were going to, but let's see if we agree in Phase 3 next week.
Yeah, so we'll just have fun. Look forward to next week. It'll be full of, I'm sure, a lot of hot takes. Yes, a lot of different things that we don't agree on because statistically speaking, there's 11 movies in that list. So there's just a lot to disagree about there. But catch us on Instagram. Tell us what you think so far of our rankings. I'm sure that we probably have disagreed with you guys at some point here. But yeah, see you next week.
Bye, guys.